When I did Chopped, all I wanted to know was to get over the fear that if I lose on national television, I'm empowering every person remotely, not even close to being a chef, to give them the ability to criticize me. How is it that I'm okay with everybody praising me but not criticizing me? I was like, let's get this done with. Let me see if I'm really that good or not. People say, it's not personal, it's business. I say, it's always personal. I mean, I started taking out the trash in my room for the first time in my life.
When you were 20,
Yeah.
when you were in New York.
Yeah. I was like, what?
What was the moment when you did realize I am talented in the kitchen?
I still don't think I'm talented. I sincerely say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 6. We come from a box of social misfits and extremism. These 3 Michelin star environments that I was raised in and some of the best restaurants and leadership teams in the world, the pursuit of perfection is so far and so deep that you have to defy logic. It's a pretty toxic environment.
Do you think that's necessary? This week's guest is Chef Pawan. I guess everyone calls him Chef P. I do too now. Chef P has been in some of the most high-pressured kitchens, working with very high-profile people around the world. Very intelligent businessman, a very hardworking individual, award-winning chef. He is one of those people who knows I can do anything. And even though he came from such a privileged background, Pawan didn't leave any stone unturned when it came to working very hard for the success that he has today. I can't give it enough justice here. His episode speaks for himself, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. Chef P, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for
so
having
much
me.
for being here. You're an award-winning chef. Your business received a Michelin key.
One of the first when the Michelin was announced for hotels, yes.
And then you've worked at several Michelin-rated establishments
Yes.
throughout your career. What do you believe sets a truly great chef apart from the rest?
I don't think you have to do anything different. And I say this quite often. People ask me, why is it that you're better or worse, or why are you doing well? And I say, it's not that we do anything different. It's we do the same thing differently. To me, hospitality now over a period of time has become more of a holistic approach. It's a process. It's not a task. I don't believe in transactional business anymore. And maybe I'm not cut out for day-to-day business, but overall, I always say business has to be a consequence of whatever it is that you believe in. And when you believe in something really strong, business will also eventually play out very well. So I don't do anything different. We just do things differently. And I believe in everything we do has to resonate with you both personally and professionally. People say, it's not personal, it's business. I say it's always personal. Everything is personal. And to me, that's how I look at what I do right now. And I think that's something unique that we don't see very often. I'm not saying it hasn't done. We're all picking up from our seniors and mentors and people we admire and look up to. But that's something I definitely say that we stand out in a day-to-day market. You don't see that quite often. And I think across the board, when people come see us, spend time with my team and myself, that's something we always take back, that they say they talk very less about the what, and they always walk away with the why. It's like they related to the why. And to me, that stays.
I think why is more important.
I absolutely
The
agree.
how doesn't matter. The what doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it right there. Like any successful person that I've had the privilege of speaking with, yourself included, it's always passion. And you're right. It's not like it is personal, right? But it starts with your passion, I believe, and it shows.
100%. And if you're lying about it, like I said,
shows too.
It'll show too.
I feel that too. You know, your customers are going to feel that too. Let's go back to where you were born and raised.
Born in India, raised in a city called Hyderabad. I grew up with an amazing foundation. Mom and dad, cousins are my best friends. I don't think I would ever change anything. I think that's one of my biggest strengths, I always say, is my foundation. I think everything stems from your foundations, and I believe in it. I'm not saying that that's just how it is for everyone, but everything I trace back, my trust, my belief in things that will always work out. It all goes back to my foundation. So inherently, I'm a trusting person. Inherently, I believe in the good of humanity, and I just always like to see the better.
So as a little boy in India, you are used to seeing all this success and prestige, right? And respect and
Right.
Very nerdy area part of India. Like, you know, doctors, we all get that. I'm trying to paint the picture for him because I get it. Where and when did you feel like, I want to be a chef?
That's funny. I didn't know I wanted to be a chef, but my house was always the epicenter of hosting.
Naturally, with
Yeah.
what your parents were
Well,
into.
not in a flamboyant party way, but my mom's the world's mom. I always say she's everybody's mom. Both my sides of my grandparents lived at home with us. That's a lot. For mom, it was, and now I think about it, I'm like, I can't believe my mom even pulled that off. Not a joint family, but at some point they were getting older, and my mom, it was a lot. And one floor was one set of grandparents, and they would eat differently and cook differently in different times. My mom was always hosting, and then all my uncles and aunts who lived in the States would come home once a year, different times. So we always had guests. So we would host, and then obviously Dad would also host quite a bit in the evening. And I have specific and also vague memories of a little trolley going around and Mom making little hors d'oeuvres, and she would watch Good Housekeeping, and she would stitch drapes, and she would do our own every single thing. She would do it, but it was done in such a tasteful way that my takeaway always when we hosted was like everybody wanted my mom to host because she had this way of making it very global and very cool, right? Everybody had nice parties at home, but there was something always a little different.
So you were influenced by your mom.
Very much so. And I would always find comfort when she was cooking to just hang out there. And I think she tells me this, I was 6 and I told her I want to be a chef, and everyone was flabbergasted saying that word chef didn't exist. And if it did, not to the stature that we think a word chef should be now, but it didn't exist. So they laughed it off for quite some time. And I think subconsciously that just stayed with me. And I always watched this guy on PBC, Yan Can Cook. There was a show called Yan Can Cook, a very, very famous chef. And then, of course, by the time I came to the US and formally said I'm going to cook for a living and go to culinary school, I started watching Emeril, bamming garlic into stuff. And I watched Wolfgang Puck, and I thought that's pretty cool. Like now, because they gained respect, right? So I was like, okay, yeah, they're cool and they're rock stars and they're making money, but everyone's given them a certain that acceptance. So I think that's along the way from India, I moved on.
There's a stereotype around Indian parents and education. I'm sure you're aware of it.
Yeah.
It looks like you don't fall in that category.
But I'd be a really doctor, so.
I'm intrigued because I fall in the other category. So I'm intrigued because did your parents ever question, like, hey, Pawan, you're going to hospital? Like, what is this?
Yes and no.
Okay.
And yes and no. And I think over time, I've come to kind of give myself the answer on why that could have been or is the case. My parents or anybody's parents only want better for their kids, right? And I think their way of communicating is through what they know or what their environments told them. So them wanting to be me to be a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer is because majority of the world was okay relating to successful with those terminologies. For myself, initially, that was a little bit of a battle trying to say, okay, I know you're letting me do what I do, but do you see how cool it is, or are you just doing this because you're mom and dad? Now, mom's very different, obviously. Maternal instinct, she's always supported me, and so has dad. But somewhere, I think the guilt of me kind of wavering off and seeing all my other cousins graduate and immediately pick up 6-figure salaries and whatnot, and doing either in some form of IT or engineers, I wore that guilt for quite some time. So I think that just fueled me until one day you see me on national TV, and I was like, okay, I'm all right now.
So you felt that you proved yourself by then.
And the funny part is the battle was within. It wasn't them, but it is a systematic struggle, right? It's not just mine. But then obviously, I don't think anyone in my family a few generations that way remotely is even anything to do with what I do.
So they were supportive of you. They questioned in the beginning, but they were supportive, right? But what was Hyderabad is a very... I've never been there. I'm more from the northern part of India. Like, that's where my family's from. But Hyderabad is where like all the smart people are.
We're all smarter maybe. But definitely education is the backbone of how most kids, whatever doctors or something are coming, and engineers are coming from Andhra Pradesh, which is now broken up into a couple more states.
It's the southern part of India.
Yeah, we're typically known to be nerdy and whatnot. And a lot of this stereotypes also have a lot of weight to them because we're coming from a place where physical labor wasn't very much. India, the northern part of India is laborious because of the terrain. So we're built a certain way there because of how it is. And here it's one way. But yes, everybody's nerdy. My sister is particularly probably in the top percentile of the country. So I mean,
what is it that she does?
Right now she runs her own company with her husband, and she's I don't want to use the wrong word again. I'll get nailed if I say the wrong thing. But they provide a lot of services, coaching, professional and personal, and they have clients around the world. They travel to other countries and set up workshops. Again, very holistic with that approach. They're very educated, very understanding. It wasn't about just being well placed in society. It was about respect. Are you a respected member of society? My grandfather is somewhat of a legend, one of the first chief secretaries of India.
You had a very nice childhood.
Nice, I would say nice. I mean, it depends, yeah.
So you moved straight from India to New York and you're about 20 years old.
Yeah, just about.
You already knew you wanted to be a chef.
I came here to specifically go to culinary school.
To go to culinary school.
Because I already had my bachelor's.
Okay. At this point, what are you thinking when you're going in culinary school? Do you have a plan?
I don't have a plan, but I definitely knew that I was very much behind the game. Because when I came here, I had a strict wake-up call. Back then, when I went to Culinary Institute of America, which is one of the most prestigious culinary schools in the world outside some of the other hospitality schools like La Roche in Switzerland and whatnot, for culinary arts, it's considered the most premier culinary school in the world. For Bourdains and everybody, all the who's who have graduated alumni.
So you felt you were behind because you're like, I need to learn more.
Well, no, the kids who were going to school there had already worked for 4 or 5 years and were recommendations from so-and-so, and you needed 2 years of experience.
How did you get in?
Because I had the bachelor's, and that included some internship with the Sheratons and whatnot.
Okay.
So I got in on that basis, but I knew one thing is, from a former culinary training standpoint, that was about the first time I was really identifying a lot of product. I mean, I didn't know there were 30 kinds of lettuce, right? I mean, when I came here in India, there was lettuce. And now there's mosh and watercress and this and that. And some of the kids already knew that, whether they were working at diners or their own parents' restaurants or had a part-time job in the city. And some of them were already professional chefs coming back for the formal degree. I got thrown into a big mix. And as you know, in the States, I mean, it's fair game for everybody. In India, you know, you're still babied quite a bit. You live everybody's mama's boy forever.
You still have to hustle for that.
It's called the Raja Babu syndrome.
Yeah.
Everybody's, it's okay, it's my son.
Yep, it's my son. He's fine. He can't do no wrong. Yep. And then you come here and it's like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I started taking out the trash in my room for the first time in my life.
When you were 20.
Yeah.
When you were in New York. Yeah.
I was like, what?
What was that culture like? Was there a culture shock? I'm sure there was.
Absolutely. One of the best things that happened to me was my roommate, Bart. Bart from Louisiana. Mm-hmm. I still remember when I heard him speak first, I thought he wasn't speaking English because my idea of English was however a New Yorker or someone from San Francisco or Washington should sound. Mm-hmm. I was aware of that much American English. But when I met Bart, and dang old Bart, you know, like I did not understand him. I would literally tell him, hey, why don't you leave a voicemail? And I used to crack up listening to his voicemail. But you never, and this is a true world scenario. Like I was like, he's not speaking English, and he would talk to me, and I was just, I was like amused. I was like, what are you saying? But that's also culture shock. I remember standing across the street and not crossing the street for 30 minutes because I didn't know how to push that street crossing button, and you're so embarrassed to ask. Yeah. Same with the bus. I would climb, and you don't want to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all these little things people don't think about. These are things
people don't think about.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen to me only. Today, I have interns who come from different parts of the world, and I go ahead and bring it up because I know they won't ask because I never did.
That's adorable.
I know they need help filing taxes because it's something overwhelming for them. I know they will not ask.
Using money and counting the denominations.
I didn't know how to identify cents and pennies for very long. So what I would do is I would just hold on to them because I didn't want that interaction at the station. So I would just give dollars. And then I ended up with a lot of change.
So you're not only dealing with the culture shock at 20, you're also in New York of all places. I mean, that's a culture shock in and of itself for all of us, even when we live here. But you're also like, I'm behind the game here. In school, I have to
100%
step it up. And you're taking the trash out now for the first time.
Yeah.
Laundry probably, first time?
Yeah, all of it.
Because I know in India you don't do your own laundry.
No, absolutely not. But I enjoyed it. Funnily enough, I think for some people it's a setback, and for me, I was very fascinated by this life. I was
Really?
very fascinated by
You
it.
never wanted to go back home?
No, and that's the funny part is I think I believe I remember telling my mom that it's strange, Ma. I said I feel at home, and everybody was really surprised. I felt very much at home. I never felt like an outcast. I was never treated like one. I got very popular very quick. I was everybody's friend. I don't know why. And then eventually, I mean, by the time I graduated, I finished top of my class. I took the medal for culinary arts, which is tough because, I mean, there's a lot of competition. And I just realized that this was my calling because I was always average or above average at everything in life, but I was really good at this. And it just came, it just happened.
Is this the moment when you were graduating school in New York that you're like, I am talented in the kitchen? This is my thing?
I don't think I was talented. I just thought this is what I really love. I still don't think I'm talented. And this is me being absolutely, honestly sincere. I still have a, I don't know, whatever you call it. I have that negative feeling about my... critical of myself. And when I evaluate myself, I sincerely say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 6. And the reason I say that is I am not naturally talented. I'm not very skilled. I'm extremely hardworking, extremely determined. I'm analytical.
You learn.
I learn, and my purpose is very, very established. But when I worked at Robuchon and some of these nicer places, and the guys I worked with, including my counterparts, I mean, that skill level, and some of them are doing really well right now. I mean, I see a lot of them have their own Netflix shows, and we talk, and a lot of our friends and colleagues in the industry, and that's real talent. So I don't really ever loosely say I'm talented. I'm not.
Your time in culinary school, now you're able to look back a little bit and say, how did that time in school shape your approach to cooking and leadership today? Because I'm sure you didn't know you were going to be here, right? When you were in school in New York?
No, I thought I'd be here.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm one of those. I always said, I'm going to be on billboards.
That's awesome.
It's weird.
No, that's incredible.
And this is where I struggle, right? I can be very humble and I very much understand what I'm good at and not. But then I also have this weird thought process where I do think I'm larger than life, and I think I will be. I don't think I'm there yet, but I have this strange belief system in my head that I think I was born to be a star. And this sounds really bad.
No.
This sounds terrible.
Mm-mm. The whole show is about being confident and stories and being inspiring. So it's okay to say that if you believe that.
I believe it.
That's it.
I believe it. I don't think it's happened yet, but I think it will. I've never once doubted that it will. I always say it's a matter of when.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to, whatever industry you're in or whatever you do, I think everyone needs to.
And the measure is, everybody's measure of whether there is different. So my idea of success is very different than someone else's. But I always said, I'm not going to be okay. I'm going to be really good. You
know who you remind me? My husband says the same thing. Yeah. He's like, I'm afraid to say this out loud sometimes because it comes off, people don't receive that well, right? But my thing is if you can raise your kids, or you could be more supportive of your friends who feel this way, all of us would be empowered. All of us would have this. I think you achieve what you believe you can achieve.
I agree.
You know what I mean? It has to come from within you. And we lose that because we're so afraid of the stigma of like, oh, he's cocky, or she's cocky, or she's arrogant. Because that's what it comes off as.
It's useful because when no one else believes in you, sometimes you need to tap into that.
I 1000% agree with that. Let's go to your MGM days. What led you to choose MGM over any other opportunities?
I did not know a lot about the industry at the time. Less did I know it would work out to be one of the better starts for me. The largest hotel on planet Earth.
Is that what took you from New York to Vegas?
Yes, I went there as an intern, strictly because I had 1 year of training that's allowed on your student visa. Okay. And that 1 year I better wanted to put to the best use because I was like, where is the place where I could do multiple things under one roof? If I went to, let's just say, 1-star restaurant in Chicago, they would, I get my training approved, and after a year, that's what I have under my belt. If I went to a place like MGM, their internship programs involves 20-odd restaurants, each one run by a completely different celebrity chef, different cuisine, different style, different everything. I was like, by the time I'm done there, one of them will hire me. Somebody there. Because I always said, I'm going to be good.
The fact that you were aware of that at that age is pretty remarkable.
So that worked out. The executive chef of the resort at that time took a chance and said he'd sponsor me for a visa, which you typically don't for an hourly employee. Those are skilled labor visas for someone who has some weightage and management experience. And they did, and I got lucky. And I always say I'm very fortunate. I don't say I'm lucky. I mean, I was very fortunate. And everything worked out, and I spent a decade and a half with the MGM. I ended up making my way all the way to the number 2 of the largest property in the world.
What do you think set you apart from all the other interns that they wanted to sponsor you and have you stay?
I don't know. I really don't know. I was very good. Like I said, I was a very, very good. I worked very hard, and my chef would say show up at 10, and I'd be there at 7. And
so your work ethic.
My work ethic, and my work ethic is still the same. I mean, no one will ever. If someone has to address something with me, it's too late.
It shows in your story already, because you came to New York and didn't have a chip on your shoulder. And it's like, no, I have to take out the trash. Oh, I'm doing my own laundry. Okay.
I loved it.
And now you're at MGM, crushing it, outworking everybody else. And they take notice, and now you're there for what, over 10 years?
Yeah, about 15. And I ran restaurants that I typically wasn't supposed to.
Why do you say you weren't supposed to?
I mean, I went from a 3 Michelin background with Mr. Robichon to then going to Tom Colicchio, which is top chef. I did his restaurant, then went to Michael Mina, another Michelin awarded chef. Then I went on to go to a pool cafe, which at the time I was like, well, I'm not going to a pool cafe. Then I realized I changed the complete financial dynamics of that than ever before in the history of the company. That was phenomenal. Then I went on to run the Banquet Center, which is one of the largest in the world. Then I went on to be going back to a restaurant called Fiamma. That's where really I started coming into myself. Is I started realizing Fiamma was a restaurant that was in New York as well. It's a very, very well-known Italian restaurant. Was one of the best in the country for a long time. And we put more stars and accolades on there. And as an Indian chef running an Italian restaurant, I broke the stereotype. Prior to that was a lot of very big named Italian chefs running it. And they were known by the name of the restaurant. By the time I left, it flipped.
Were you?
Fiamma is run by Chef P. Chef P didn't work for Fiamma. And I thought that was something.
Was that a challenge for you?
No, it didn't. It just happened because I started becoming myself. And I'm also fortunate that I was allowed to, but I always say you create opportunities, right? Nobody just gives you anything for free. By the time I left, some of my leadership, some of my management skills were really showing on how to change culture, because people had been there 30, 35 years. They're not going to let a young kid just come and change systems. They'll throw you under the bus. It's a union environment. But I said, well, I'm not going to be a bull in a china shop. I'm going to change culture. And I slowly started seeing that it is doable if you're really that determined to do it. And then, people started taking notice of not just my culinary expertise, the leadership qualities. That's really where I started influencing large teams, mindsets, other senior leaders. I was one of those chefs who had access to presidents of companies, and also someone who was changing out the trash in a hotel.
Where did you learn these leadership qualities? Was it your time at MGM, or was it?
Some of it is, I want to say you just absorb on how to treat people, and some of it is curated, practiced. It takes a lot of work. There's times I want to throw a fit, but I also I have to hold myself back. I cannot have a bad day. This is what I tell everybody, because if I'm having a bad day, that's going to trickle down to many, 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 many people.
I think everything is management top to bottom, not bottom to top. And I think your employees are a reflection of who you are at the
100%.
top. And I know that a lot of entrepreneurs or C-suite executives or people who are at the top, they don't get that. They expect their employees to it's like, no, you have to lead by example. Your passion has to flow through to them. That's how it works. And it's clear and it's felt by your customers or by the experience.
Yeah.
Which is like we were talking about earlier. What do you think some of the biggest lessons were that you learned at MGM that you took with yourself?
The numbers I did at MGM, or we did at MGM, it wasn't obviously a one-man show, I'll never do again. I mean, that's just me being honest. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes, okay. I mean, there isn't another one. You don't have 8,500 room hotels anymore. Like, it's just not going to happen. It was a city in itself, right? 10,000 employees. That's not going to happen. What I really took back was actually when I was leaving the MGM. It wasn't very planned. I always saw myself as staying there forever and making myself to like whatever president, vice president, whatever, however that the ladder goes. But I left, and I never saw myself any other way, right? So like now all of a sudden I was MGM and MGM was me. Now I'm like, well, who am I? Like I lost every identity I had, and I was stripped down to bare bones. Then I went on to run Top of the World, which is a Golden Entertainment, one of the highest grossing restaurants in the world.
Vegas?
Yeah. The restaurant revolved, and 475 seats got to see me every 80 minutes, right? The center of it was me. It's called Top of the World. I've done a Super Bowl commercial in 2019, done quite a bit of work. I mean, we were on USA Top 5 and whatnot. Again, that restaurant also was there for a very long time and was doing well. I got there, we added some stuff. We relaunched the Stratosphere Hotel. It went through a new branding with myself and whatnot. Then the Vegas Golden Knights were part of the deal over there. So there was things still happening, and I was still coming to terms with saying, okay, P, you can rebuild anywhere. It's about you now. It's not just, now
you're becoming Chef P.
Correct. I was, but I mean, now I'm really acknowledging the fact that I am Chef P. When I was leaving Vegas at some point, it was in the review journal, Chef P to leave Vegas. And I was like, holy, like, I'm just another guy around here, But that's about the time, I think 2015 onwards, I really knew who I was. And I was very confident that I can do this anywhere. It's not just... Until then, I believed in the system and being part of a big ecosystem and saying, I'm so thankful, I'm grateful. I was part of the system. And later on, I realized that, I am part of the system, and I'm very, very, until now, I still thank everybody who taught me everything they did, because I'm so glad to have that experience and that structure, because I utilize a lot of that today. I'm not the most talented person I know. I'm definitely not the most presentable person I was working with back in the day. I don't have the skills that my former bosses or colleagues that I looked up to. I mean, these guys were masters of their craft. I've had to work 50 times harder to get to this point. If I have a 10% winning chance, I always say I'll participate 100 times more. That's just who I am. I know my strength is my awareness. I am very aware of what I'm good at, and I'm that much more aware of what I'm not good at. So I have to overcompensate with some things. And I've realized with chefs, a lot of us, we're so passionate that we refuse to acknowledge what's not good. When we create a dish, we don't, it's like you criticize a mom's child. She's like, oh yeah, he did that because. We refuse to see anything else because we put that much passion into it. This is why I always say it's good to step outside and take a look and really get a holistic approach of everything. I sit down and eat in my restaurant more than most chefs would ever do, because I don't want to think of it of why I created, because I'll always justify, I put the cilantro because when I really sit down, is it as impactful to me as a guest as when I was creating it? Probably not. Now I'm going, I don't think it needed to be there. But when I was putting it together, because I am the curator, I will always justify it. But when I sit down on the other side, I always think about it. But coming back to your question, we're so passionate that it's really, really hard to unwind quickly. There's times I catch myself timing myself in the bathroom to take a shower. That tells you mentally I'm sick. I'm messed up in the head at some point because there's deadlines.
No, you're not.
No, but there's deadlines. You know what I mean? And over time that goes away. But
you're programmed in a certain way.
I mean, who's timing me to take a shower? Yeah. And I'll catch myself walking out and looking at the clock going, today was 6.5 minutes. And I'm like, I'm messed up. But it also depends on what caliber of career you've had. I mean, these 3 Michelin star environments that I was raised in, and some of the best restaurants and leadership teams in the world, when the pursuit of perfection is so far and so deep that you have to defy logic, niceness can go out of the window. Yeah. You have to defy every single norm out there. When we're painting a grain of rice with JR for Joel Robuchon that's going 7 plates under an underliner, that while you're eating your oyster, you may or may not see.
Yeah.
But you're taking a magnifying glass, sweating over, and that JR has to be perfect.
Does this perfectionism, though, like you said, in your training, does it come from wanting to be that perfect, or does it come from the pressure of the superiors at that time when you're coming up the ranks as a chef? Because I'll say this from a person who doesn't know much about this industry, but I do watch the Food Network. Okay, I do watch those shows, those wars, and whatever, and I know that's glorified. But it's like, is that why? It's because you were scared of them and that's what's been ingrained in you?
All I wanted for early in my career is for one of my chefs to go, you did okay. That's all I wanted to hear, right? That's all I wanted to hear. You idolize them. They're your war heroes.
So you're looking for that.
You're looking for validation.
And validation.
And there's nothing better than when a real chef calls you a chef, right? So whenever anybody says, oh, they're a chef, you're a chef, I smile because that word, I mean, you could run TGI, and not to demean anything.
No.
It's all great. But when a guy that I think is a real chef, when they call me chef, that's like a badge of honor to me, because I know what it takes for him to acknowledge me as a chef. Because being a chef is far more than most people can even comprehend. It's a pretty toxic environment.
Oh.
And and when I say toxic, I mean this in, I don't know if there's a nice way to be toxic, but I mean this in a way that we come from a box of social misfits and extremism, right? Where passion, I could sit and talk to you about why the world ended because you put that piece of micro cilantro facing left instead of right. Like the world's ending right now, right? That's how serious it is. But when the chef tells you how long on the sea bass, I need it in 5 seconds, you better believe it's 5 seconds. He doesn't mean 6 seconds. And the world's gonna blow up if it's not 5 seconds, because like Chef Eric Rupert says, 30 seconds is a lifetime in fish cookery. So we live and die by deadlines, which is why you'll notice a lot of military, former military join, because we're used to structure and guidelines and we find it easier to live within those boundaries. But you go to a bank and you ask me to fill a form and I'm being mocked by a 23-year-old going, I'm like, oh, what do I do? Like, I'm like,
Yeah, no.
yeah. So we live like that. And when you live in an environment that's every day, you're in pressure, you have to have outlets. And when we do, that's why you'll see alcoholism, a lot of divorce rates, drug abuse, because they're so extreme about how they do one thing. There has to be an outlet in a similar sort of fashion. If I start breaking down what I really, really do or what I'm capable of doing on my day-to-day life, from logistics and business and schematics and land zoning to...
It's more.
It's a lot more. It depends on what you're talking about. So the hard part about this is I don't think I know who I am outside Chef P. And maybe I don't even want to know because maybe I'm not very happy with that. So there's a little bit of that too. Like when I weighed 390 pounds for quite a bit of my life. Mm-hmm. And I realized I knew I was big, but I kept staying more and more at work because that was my cape, because there I was a Superman. Outside that, I was just a fat boy. Maybe I didn't care, but maybe I did, but I was just hiding behind just being a phenomenal chef. So I just went back to doing what I was doing really well, which applies to most chefs. That's why I say we're a bunch of social misfits where we find glory in what we do. So we stick to that.
Can you share a moment where you doubted any part of your career or your path?
Was about the time when I left.
Your lowest time.
Yeah, that was about the time when I left MGM. I really had questioned every identity of mine. I mean, I was...
Were you questioning
who
being
I
a
am
chef at all?
Yeah. I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm never going to get an opportunity like this somewhere else. And should I go back into this or should I change companies? And I really didn't know what path to take, because until then I had all penned it all out and I didn't know anywhere. I had my blinders on. That was one. And then obviously when COVID happened, we had opened the Greystone 2 weeks prior to COVID. And to move to a city, struggle for 3 years, with having no market presence, and then finally open doors, and then have the hotel shut down with really no answers. And now I'm going, should I have left a mega corporation where at least I know what the hell's going to happen?
These things happen back to back.
Yeah, by the time I leave Vegas and move to Miami, I work for 3 years and we have a great gala time pre-opening and building a hotel and concepting and all the fun stuff that comes with it. And then we open doors and they say, we're done. And I said, well, what next? Well, nobody knew what next. But by this time, I think personally and professionally, I was so far along the way that I never feared what's going to happen. I was comfortable. I was like, no matter what, I said, you know what? How's that saying go? Everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
To go back to your first story that you shared with me about how it was when you were leaving Vegas and you didn't know, like, should I even be doing any of this?
Yes.
How did you talk or get yourself out of there? Like, what did you do to be like, okay, this is my next move?
I just wanted to find out if I really have it in me or not. If I'm really that good or not.
So what, you forced yourself to move to Miami?
Yeah.
Why'd you choose Miami?
Well, I didn't. One of my very, very close friends, also my business partner in ways, initially started on the Greystone project, and he was like, P, why don't you come out here? And he's like, I need you. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And him and I worked at the MGM for years. He was my counterpart in many ways. And I said no. And he goes, well, come on, give it a shot. And I started flying back and forth, even when I was at top of the world, when I started flying back and forth for a little bit. And then...
Did you find excitement again? Like, were you like, okay, this
Yes.
might be, or were you still scared and like, I don't know what I'm doing?
Yes, because I was an established professional by then. But the fear of, when you're used to being told you're really good, it's cool. And when you get used to it, you're afraid that one day that's not going to happen.
Someone's going to take it away.
Yeah. And that's the hard part about being relevant, is you have to cope with the idea of not being relevant. And the same happened with me going on a television show called Chopped. It's so funny. After such a nice career, people still come to the restaurant, take a picture of me, and I'm wondering where they've seen me or what they've read about me, and they'll be like, "Oh, we loved your show," and I'm like, "Chopped." Like that's what it is. And I've realized that for me also, that show, when I did it, it didn't really define any of my, I mean, yes, the show is about how good you are with what you have. It really doesn't tell you if you're professionally at this caliber or not. I've had Michelin star chefs gone and lost round 2, and they're at the pinnacle of their career, right? They're pioneers. That doesn't say anything, but it's about what can you do with what you have. If you've never seen this ingredient or even a canned something because you're a Michelin guy, what are you going to do with it? So it's really about coming down to who you are as a person. And of course, action, reaction, your expertise will kick in at some point. But it's the rest of it is really who you are. When I did Chopped, all I wanted to know was to get over the fear that if I lose on national television, I'm empowering every person who is remotely not even close to being a chef to give them the ability to criticize me. But then I also realized, but how is it that I'm okay with everybody praising me but not criticizing me? So I was like, let's get this done with.
Yeah, let's get this over with.
Let me see if I'm really that good or not. Mm-hmm. And then there's that side. And then the other side of it is I'm also so cocky that when I went on that show, I made a side bet with one of my friends. And then my friend also had to pay me another 10 grand because I said, I don't want to give out some details, but I said, I'm going to win like this, like this, like this. And that's how I did it. And so there's also that side of me where, and it again comes back into this, I am as humble and as understated as can be, and I'm very thankful and grateful. But there's another side of me that I'm tenacious. Like
I think there's moments where because I'm kind of the same way in very different situations. Like I just know when that tenacious side needs to come out. Like it's like, I know at this point I have to speak to this person and I guess I have to gun it, and then you know when to like kind of reel it back in. But it's kind of like innate. Yeah. It's like, it just comes out on its own. I'm
humble enough to lose, but I always tell people like, I'm not going to give you that chance though. You'll never find out.
It just comes out on its own. And then it's, you're kind of like, oh yeah, there she is. Or there he is, I agree. It's still there. I still got it, right?
Yeah.
So you come to Miami, you're setting up the Greystone. You start to have some issues with COVID. COVID brings some challenges.
Hotel shuts down, yeah.
The hotel shuts down. How do you guys navigate that?
We lay off everybody.
Was that hard? That was probably your first time you had to lay off somebody.
Everybody. But after we lay everybody off, ownership of the hotel had asked me to stay on and help keep the hotel alive. And that at some point, when COVID, if and when goes away, that because the hotel was branded around me and quite a bit of the culinary branding was done around myself and my partner at the time. So I stayed on, and today as managing director and executive chef of the property and the hotel and the restaurant and food and beverage in particular. We reopened, and it's been 4 years, and we got a Michelin key.
How did all of this in your career, because from what it's pressure. What you've gone through is pressure.
Yeah.
I know you might not, but it is. How did this all affect your mental and physical health?
The best possible way. My weight loss journey started when I was towards the end of my Las Vegas time, like 2017, 16, I started losing weight and I wanted to.
Well, if you don't mind going into that a little bit, like what happened? You gained an excess amount of, is that what it, like, because you were working so much?
Through my entire career. I mean, I was always big,
Okay.
but the business doesn't really help. You eat once a day, and then your work and lifestyle and your stress levels affect your cortisol and so on and so forth. And I just consistently put on weight through my entire career, and that never changed. And I'm sure somewhere in there my hormones were off or whatever. And by the time I realized, I was morbidly obese. And I just had to, at some point, also come to terms and say, if I am not doing something about it, nobody will. And same thing again, hardest working person in the room is that's the only way it's going to happen. And until now, I this morning I did not want to go to the gym. I'm sore, and I said, well, I have to go see Nina and do this, and I still managed to squeeze in 30 minutes. And I'm sure through the rest of the day, at some point, I'm going to go, how do I get another 30 minutes in at some point? And I will. So it's just, you got to make it happen.
So it affected your health, but you turned that around.
Yeah.
Your work ethic showed right there, like you jumped right back into it. And
yeah. So through COVID, I was able to focus a lot more on my health.
Okay.
While I was maintenance man and handyman for the hotel and understanding historic things about the building and HVACs and plumbing and things like that I don't have any clue about. I mean, I come from a setup where I had 1,300 engineers managing the largest property in the Northern Hemisphere.
Did you feel at any point that you took a back step
No.
when you were doing those
No.
things? Or you still understood, like, I'm becoming Chef P.
Correct.
He knows everything. He does everything, and no job is beneath me.
I firmly believe. There's nothing. There's times I walk out of the hotel and there'll be a guest who has no idea that I am the chef of the restaurant or whatever, and they'll be like, "Oh, we're looking for valet," and I go ahead and I valet their car and I'll get them the ticket and whatnot. Later on, maybe they'll see a little bit of my poster somewhere and they'll be like, "Oh, we saw you on South Beach Food and Wine hanging on the somewhere," and they'll be like, "Why didn't you say anything?" Or there's times I'll take guest luggage up to the rooms because I'm there and Bell Desk needs help, and big deal. And I enjoy it because I get to be a little part of, their journey. And to me, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any misconceptions about chefs?
No, I think most people have us figured out because we're pretty simplistic human beings. We're very much animal-like, right? We're very much animal-like. You give us some food and you pet us, we'll love you. And and sometimes we misbehave and we need a little whooping. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you mind sharing with us the unglamorous side of being a chef? Because you're a chef, like, you wear this like fancy little hat and like this coat and like, that's, I'm just being honest. Like that's, and you have this, the flavors of everything, but I know that that's glamorized. There's a whole different side to this.
That's the spear. That's the tip of the spear. And a lot of this is being explored in modern day television and reality TV shows. We're watching, I haven't particularly watched it, but The Bear and a couple of these other shows that explore the life of what it is really on the other side of being a chef, or especially for the guys who are still coming up the ranks. And I experienced a lot of it myself. I mean, without taking any particular names of certain establishments, when the expectations are unrealistic and they're kept that way on purpose because you're really pursuing excellence, which really isn't a destination, it's just an agenda. So there is unrealistic expectations, and that comes with a lot of hardships, and you're going to have to battle it out because there's a lot of people out there who are just as hungry and more talented. I've worked consistently 120 plus hour weeks consistently, and I'm talking about for a decade straight. I'm not saying for 1 year, for 2 years, for 3 years. I have worked 7 days a week for years at a time. I've worked 6 days a week and today, if anyone wants to really know my schedule, I work 7 days a week round the year. I don't take a day off because to me, I'm never off and I'm also never working. Everything seems like a vacation and everything seems like I'm working. So if I am in town, I'm going to office unless I'm not in town. So I literally work 7 days a week and I don't consider it work. But to go back to your question, there's been time, I think I was taken to the hospital because I blacked out. I zoned out. And I think I was on a 69-day stretch in particular. I was working for this one restaurant, and I was really wanting to become executive sous chef, and I was a sous chef at that point. And I think I really wanted to take notice, and we had lost a lot of our senior management, and all I kept saying was, I can do this, I can do this. And line cooks were sabotaging. They would unplug coolers, and then I would have to remake rabbit tagines. And I was working 18 plus hours a day, 7 days a week. And I think on day 69 or day 70, I started getting delusional. And I was taken out because I blacked out. My socks would be bloody because my nails would dig into my skin, and I would put my socks up and they would stand because they were dried out. And I'm sure this is not just my story. Mine's a little gruesome, but I'm sure a lot of people have had similar experiences. People who go to some of these very well-known, famed establishments outside our country work for a couple of years with no pay. They're digging into their savings. And I'm not saying anything is right or wrong. I always say, if it's not for you, don't do it. There is an X amount of things that I don't think are the right way to do it. And in today's world, you cannot do that. And my team functions at a very high caliber, but I definitely don't think today it's A, you're not going to get away with it legally, and B, it's just not the right thing to do.
This reminds me of something. Is this safe to say that you came from a privileged family in India, came to New York at 20, you literally worked, the American dream, you worked for it. But I don't think you never chased the financial aspect. You worked for your passion. Is that a fair statement? It
is a fair statement. Did I chase money? No. Did I want it? Absolutely. Did I know, was it at the forefront of my mind all the time? Absolutely not. But did I want to be financially successful? I'd be lying if I told you that wasn't one of the drivers. I mean, for a lot of people today, success also is measured by your financial growth. I mean, and it's not wrong to say that, but that's not the only driver.
It never was the only driver.
It was never the only driver. It was definitely never the only driver. That I can very confidently say.
Do you feel as though it's your passion for food and for the industry that you're in that got you through your toughest moments?
Food's taken a backseat. Like, I don't think food ever fuels, I never wanted to make a really good plate that bad. That's not how it works. That's always an outcome. That's just a means. Mm-hmm. It's just proving yourself and trying to say that you can hang with the best. It's more about what you want to, end of the day, you're the one judging yourself more than anybody else. You're the one judging yourself the hardest. So for me, it was always about, I always thought I was really good, but now I had to prove to myself I was really good. So that's what it was about.
How do your parents view all of this? Like, when they see, like, you were 6 years old and said, I want to be a chef in the kitchen in India, and they laughed it off.
Listen, I say this sincerely. I have the best parents in the world, and I hope most kids feel that way. I think they're proud. They do tell me quite often. And I know each one of my parents has different ways of expressing that with me. My dad's more of my friend now. My mom's more of my philosophical guide now. Early in my life, my mom was my friend, and my dad was more authoritative and gave us guidelines. And he was working very hard, so he wasn't as involved in our day-to-day life because my dad traveled quite a bit. But they're very supportive, and I chat with them quite a bit, and I'm very fortunate that now we can really, really chit-chat and whatnot. And my parents I'm so fortunate. They're so open-minded, and they're global citizens, and they're very understanding that we can agree to disagree on so many things, because we do disagree on a lot. They're a product of their environment, and I'm a product of my environment. And what realities, yes, and what realities apply to them, they don't apply to me. So the beauty is that we're able to talk through that now.
Do you feel, acknowledge, or see the road that you may have paved for other people, other kids, other young kids in other countries, or just in India alone, to be able to come here and achieve the success that you have achieved? Do you see yourself as that?
No, I don't want to glorify my journey or my path, but I can definitely, if I can inspire or keep that fire alive for quite a few kids, because I was an intern myself, and I see the interns. Every year we rotate out interns. Even if I can light that fire, I don't want to even say inspire. If they want one of the things that I have, right, then they're also seeing what it takes alongside to get that, right? So let's just say they see a car that I drive and they like it. There's an X amount of work that goes in with it. So even if it's that simple, if I can help stimulate a little bit of that, my job's done. I remember this so clearly. One of my chefs, when I was working at Tom Colicchio's at Kraft, Chef Matt was the executive chef of the restaurant, and this tall, good-looking, 6 foot something New Yorker, charming, had a jacket bragard. They have their B over here, and it was cotton, and we wore line cook jackets that were made by whatever Chef Works or whatever that is. And I remember seeing his jacket, and his jacket would be perfectly pressed, and that fall and the drape, and it was like I would be like just that looked heroic, right? And that moment was etched into my mind forever. I was like, I want to have a jacket like that. Like, that's so simple, right? And I was like, well, for that, you have to be the executive chef of a famed restaurant. It's so simple, something that small. I was like, I want that jacket.
It motivated.
And it's so materialistic, right? But I was like, bragard jackets are only given to the execs because that's the budget of the hotel, and you guys get to wear run-of-the-mill stuff. Yeah. Guess what? I got my jacket, but that was also one of the things. I wanted that jacket.
Yeah, and I think there's a little thing here that I want to mention. It's not materialistic. Sometimes I think we have to acknowledge that. People are like, oh, you just want to do this because you want money or you want cars. No, the tiniest thing can motivate us and light that fire, and that's okay. You should acknowledge that. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's just a pathway.
My dad used to say, sometimes people would say to him, be like, why are you, by no means were we spoiled, but like in that time, we were given cars when we were 16 and they were decent. They were not BMWs or Mercedes, but they were good cars. And some of his friends were like, why are you spoiling your kids? Like, make them work for this or that. And like, they do have jobs. But I also want them to see something beyond what is in our city or in our community right now, so that they have this drive and motivation.
Right.
Like this, you can have this when you're older too, if you work just as hard or harder than me. And I think there's something to be said about that we don't know when you're kids, like what you pick up on the tiniest thing. Like I had one too where Michelle watches were a thing. It's not a Rolex, it's just a Michelle, right? It's not, but for me back then, it was like a big deal. And this girl, I remember, I was like in high school. She was a doctor. Blonde, beautiful girl, fresh out of med school, practicing medicine. And she was in the restaurant, she knew my parents. And I was just like, oh, like this watch was so pretty. And like, whereas then I was like, I want one so bad. That was my dad, he goes, well, if you're a doctor, then you can afford it too,
There you go.
But like, that's where it comes from. It's not about the watch. It's not about being materialistic. It's just finding what sparks you.
Whatever it is. And this is what I tell them.
And use it.
Whatever drives you,
use it.
Use that to fuel you.
Yeah, I agree. You were mentioning earlier about how your time at MGM, like when, your superiors are rigid for a reason, right? It's a high pressure environment anywhere for a chef starting.
Yeah, I don't think it's MGM particularly. It's anywhere. Any high caliber, any outlet that requires performance to be at its best.
Very extreme. Would you say that the shows portray it correctly?
To some extent, yes.
Okay. So to use that as an example, do you think that's necessary? To get this excellence out of chefs and line cooks? Like, do you think that's...
My answer is pretty simple. Diamonds are made in pressure. I mean, there is an X amount. See, and if that's not the case, because over time now, that kind of pressure has been reduced, environments have changed. Now, that results in, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but there's a simple thing. In this algorithm, this is the output, and in this algorithm, this is the output. Now, whether it works or not, I'd be no one to say what works for you, what doesn't. In tough environments, create tough people. That's just how it works, right? I mean, if you spar every day, the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in war. That's just how it is, right? Now, today's generation, or the younger generation that's still coming up, I've noticed this, they're very good at succeeding and they're very bad at failing. They're phenomenal winners. They all know exactly how to conduct themselves. They're great in boardrooms and whatnot. The first time they take a slap or the first time their business fails, they cannot understand why somebody doesn't like them, why somebody disagrees. Try confrontation now with younger generation. They're very good at putting forward data. They're far more articulated. They're very good artists. Like I always say, like today's generation can gel and do artistry, like amazing. They're really good at being good. They're terrible at being bad.
Wow.
They all have, I say, and it's not their fault because they're a product of their environment. there's so much more opportunity to succeed and so little safety net for failure. They just don't understand how to fail. They're glass chins. You take a punch and they're falling.
You have to be able to take criticism too.
So when this environment changes and when this trend changes, they will struggle. We find that in our generation, success came after a longer time. Today, success can happen pretty quick.
Yes.
Pretty quick. So by the time we became successful, we were also groomed to understand how to handle it. Today, it's not like that, right? They can become successful overnight. So how does someone who became successful overnight have any opportunity to cope with it? They don't.
No, they don't know how to sustain it, right? They don't know how to hold it.
Hence.
And then when the problems arise, then they fall weak. They say like this, the more criticism you can handle, the more blows you can take, the stronger person you are, and you can actually handle that success and that level of achievement, because that doesn't come cheap. That comes with a lot of work.
I always say it's not whether you can be successful or not, it's whether you can sustain it.
Sustain it, yeah. That's your business. How long can you stay in business for?
And it all comes down to that. So I don't really think that environment is good or bad, but pressure makes diamonds, and we know that, and that's just how it is.
But you've taken that, like when you explained about how you do handle your team a little differently, where they're not afraid. I'm sure you were afraid of people when you were working for your super. There was moments where you were probably.
I still am.
Right?
Yeah.
But you don't want that environment in your restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, when I say I still am, and I luckily I always say like, I'm at a point in my life personally and professionally, I will only do something if I absolutely want to. And to me, that's success. I will work with who I want to work with and when I want to work with. That's my definition of success. I've come to terms with the fact that I'll always have to work and I always want to work. But if I get to pick that, that's successful enough. But for my team members, they're given a lot of guidelines and a lot of opportunity to fail. Yes, definitely. Would this have happened 10 years ago? Absolutely not. And in fact, some of my team members who've been with me prior, I think find it glaringly different, and we do joke about it. But that's what we are in today. And again, we have to adapt. We just have to adapt. But I don't necessarily agree or disagree with it, but I know what to expect out of it also. Tomorrow in a high pressure situation, I know who's going to be able to handle it and who's not.
All the people that you look up to, is there a common denominator that you see in them that helps them be the way that they are, that you like about them so much, or about their craft?
Is it going to be bad if I say I don't look up to anybody? I really enjoy certain characteristics about certain people. I respect tremendously. I have a great amount of respect for people who commit to anything they believe in. Mm-hmm. To me, that's number one. Whether I look up to someone or not, that's useless, right? It doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't glorify anybody anymore because...
But is there any superiors that you like?
All of them, every single one of them. In fact, I also look up to a lot of my line cooks who are career line cooks. They're probably some of the best people I've ever cooked with. They make it look easy. I mean, there are some line cooks and master cooks that I've worked with early in my career. I mean, when I say they are masters of their craft, I mean, they could look at a piece of meat, which is tight and one has a bone, and tell you what grade of it is. And because of the way the blood's trickling down, they'll tell you if that's at a medium or a medium. I mean, they are at a level that we cannot comprehend, right? And these guys have put 25, 30 years. They could look at the temperature of the grill by looking at it and telling you what color smoke's coming out. I mean, my eye cannot catch that, but you've mastered your craft, right? I look up to them. I respect them simply for the fact of committing to something for that long and consistently applying themselves. Now that I look up to. I don't really particularly look up to a particular chef because they're all very successful and that speaks for itself, themselves. But Mr. Robichon, I mean, he's passed away for years now and his restaurants are still getting 3 Michelin stars. Like, I mean, that tells you how strongly he believed in what he believed, that after he's dead, there's others who are still bringing stars to, I mean, that is unfathomable.
I look up to people, you look up to people who are mastering their craft, right? And stay in it for like, mine is when I meet people who knew or take the time to find out what it is that they're passionate about and then are executing on it and living their dream. And that's you. You're one of those people that I see right now. And I'm just like, that's, you know, it's so inspiring to see that. And like, I look up to that. Like that's whenever I see someone doing that, when I ask you, like, what would you be doing? And you're like.
But that's funny you asked that, Nina, because if you asked me, or someone else may have asked me this, like what I really want, Funny part is, I don't know. Like, what are you trying to get to? I don't think I know. So I know one thing is I am chasing something. I know that.
Are you chasing or are you living?
I don't know.
You're doing.
I don't know.
You're busy doing what you love.
Yeah, but I mean, there has to be, there's something that I'm waiting for it to happen. I don't know that because this kind of drive doesn't come just because.
More billboards.
Yet to happen.
Your own show.
No, actually. I really don't know if there is an end point to this or I'm just going to be done enjoying the process. Like, I think
that's what I said. I think you're living. I think you're in the process, you're doing, and that is somewhere along the way enough and people.
That's it. To me, it's it. That's
it's the relationships that I think you are building.
I find true joy in conversing and including this. Like, I'm going to walk away so inspired because you're going to reignite. When I talk about all this, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, let's go. So that's basically all it is. And every time I talk to professionals or even non-professionals, when I see anyone passionate about anything, even if a guy who's fishing and he tells me about,
same,
I get obsessed.
Same. I love it. It almost like makes you like look. I get outside of myself and I look at myself. I'm like, wow. Even if I'm like maybe 1% of my passion is missing today, right? But I see someone or talk to someone, I'm like, yes, okay. I know what that feels like. You know, it's like, it's invigorating.
Yeah, it is.
And to talk with people like that, it's like, I don't know, to be in this kind of energetic space, you kind of realize this is what life is about.
100%.
In some ways. And the part of the reason why I even started the show is because I wanted people to feel that again. I want people to be watching a show or a podcast and feel the feelings of my guests and be like, this is what it feels like. You find your why. Find your passion, please. Don't just be partying and running around. And there's a time and place to be a child, okay? I'm not saying that. But like after that, like find something that makes you happy and excited. And my gosh, please don't settle for a desk job. If that's not making you happy.
Find your why.
There are people here who are really loving what they do. It doesn't mean that they don't face challenges or obstacles on their way. They do. You are an example of that. But your passion gets you through. Your why gets you through. Like,
yeah,
it does.
It does. I would love to.
And a common denominator that I'm seeing in a lot of our guests is you guys enjoy the process. You do enjoy the process. You may not have this goal over here. That's not uncommon, but you just enjoy the process. I think too many people focus on the goal and then it's so big, they don't take action. Like, oh, I don't have the money or I don't have this or I don't have this. Whereas
get started.
People like you are doing it because you got started and took action. I know that my team went to your restaurant. I didn't get a chance yet. And I know that it's an experience. You are a very funny person. We got that. You said that when you walked in. And
I think I am.
You are. You're a storyteller. You're a curator. You build an experience. Can you walk us through this experience a little bit for people who haven't been to your restaurant or can't make it to your restaurant?
Yeah, absolutely. So the restaurant, people always ask me, oh, it's French Japanese. Is it French cuisine and Japanese cuisine? And I say, no, it's not. It's neither is it French food or is it Japanese food. And you got an Indian guy cooking, so it's nothing. What it is really, I've always loved the French idea of opulence. And then I've also loved the Japanese concept of minimalism. Now they're contradictory. You can't really have them together, let alone in a cuisine. But I wanted to do that. So, and also it's because of those two famous chefs and significant role in my life, Morimoto and Chef Robuchon. So you come to the restaurant and you're going to find opulence displayed through technique and the thought process, and then the minimalism and the discipline applied through plating and ingredients. So if you really think about what I say or what I speak about, or if you follow any little bit of what I've done through my career, you'll start realizing that the art of storytelling through my food and through your experience, right when you walk in through the door. I ask my team never to tell people, if someone comes to the restaurant and say, are you closed? Don't ever say we're closed. Say, we're open from this time to this time. Because all a guest is hearing is the no. Oh no, we're closed. No. We're open from 10 to 5. Don't ever say we're closed at 5. Because what registers in a human's mind is the no first. And then some people may or may not even listen to the reason. When you're walking someone to the table, simple things like, I believe in graciousness, elegance, and dignity. So I even ask my team, don't say, follow me to the table, allow me. things like that. I layer in a lot of who I am and how I feel. From the logo of the Greystone, it's 1920, it's Collins Avenue. 1920 was also the Prohibition era. That's also when Rolls-Royce came about. Remember that Rolls-Royce logo of the angel? The Greystone is the mermaid, the G.
Oh,
It forms the great simple thing. The Rolls-Royce stands for elegance and you'll never see a bumper sticker on one. You may or may not, but what it means is that it commands a certain dignity and a certain amount of respect. So for me also, as you dine, you'll start realizing the food is a lot more to it than meets the eye. And there's a beef tartare on the table that has a story of Creekstone Farms, which I'm an ambassador proudly for, and it's all American and corn-fed, and the knife cuts that go into it and whatnot. And I serve it with Lay's chips, and it comes in the bag of Lay's, and people go, "Why would you not put that on a baguette or something?" And it's not that I can't make a fancy vessel for it, but there's also a scientific reason behind it. If I put that on a piece of fried something, that's going to seal your palate. If I give it on bread, the chew of the bread is going to outlast the chew of the beef. I want the sweetness of the bread to stay away. I want the sweetness of the beef to stay. But I'm giving you a vessel that absorbs moisture out of your palate. So the first thing that rehydrates your palate is the beef. So I'm actually scientifically accentuating the beef without you knowing. But I'm also being funny while I do it.
Wow.
So it all depends on how much you want to know. I recreate classics like a foie gras creme brulee, and I don't want to get into too many details, but there's a lot of science that goes in. But I also understand that things that make a classic is that one thing that tugs on your heart. If you push to the point where that element is missing, if a French onion soup doesn't have that burnt cheese skirt, you've gone too far. So there's some things that human elements gotta stay. So a lot of the dining experience, the napkin folds match the leaves on the wall. The texture of the napkins. It's fun. The weight of the knives are heavy. So luxury, I'm laying it in with you because you don't have to saw on your steak because that knife's a little heavier. It's weighted. Simple. Again, at the same time, we don't have white tablecloths or someone standing next to you going, "Excellent choice, madame." We don't have that. I don't want the fuss to weigh down the experience. I want that to be there, but so it is really who I am to some extent because I'm trying to tell you who I am. I'm trying to introduce myself to you. I'm trying to speak with you without me being there at the table sometimes. There is a story. When you walk in, when you look at every single thing, the plants that are on the wall, they're live. Every day you got to spray them. It's growing out of the wall. There's small things. The kitchen is visible and it's upfront that forces us to behave and conduct ourselves in a certain way. I've been told by the health department, but we are when I say a model, and I'm not saying this I'm yet to receive even, knock on wood, one demerit ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's impossible to do. And I tell you what, it is possible to do.
In the restaurant business.
And we are also an all student run kitchen. Every single person is a student from a different part of the world. And they leave every year. So it is doable. But that means I have to layer that much more education. At 5 o'clock, every sauce in the hotel is put on a plate as a dot and run down the plate like this to see the shine and the drip and the glaze. And that way at 7:30, one of the plates, I'm not saying now it's too late. There's steps in place, but there's no fuss. And it's fun. It's just like that. So I always say
I heard you have funny names for things.
I do. Like the duck is called a quack quack. But it is, you know what I mean? But it's sous vide for 2.5 hours. There's, on one end, there's technique going in, but without the fuss. I always say there was a time and place in the world where I would say, the strawberry was picked by a virgin on the foothills of the Himalayas standing on one leg and you needed a freaking PhD to eat my food. But that's not, I don't want that. Like I said, less about impressing, more about making people happy. I don't need you to think I'm cool. I don't need you to know I'm good. I know I'm good.
You just want people to experience
I just want them to have fun and basically feel like who you're with. I always say who you're with is far more important. I just have to give you good food. The rest is about having fun and hopefully you walk away and say, you'll come back, and that's about it. I take it just as seriously. Someday someone wants to marry me in the restaurant and one day I'm wasting oxygen and it'll all be over a piece of lasagna and big deal. It's okay. It's not the end of the world, but that's just how it is. There's a dish on the menu. It's called butter service. there's one of these things that really triggers me is I go to these very nice restaurants and they have a pastry chef, which is very expensive to get, and a boulanger and a bread maker, and you proof bread, and the starter dough is from 100 years ago, and the whole story. And then the bread is an art form in itself. And if you ask any baker, they'll tell you that. And then they give you cold butter and you're trying to spread that butter. You should go to jail for that.
It's a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, you should definitely be jailed for that. But I also used to love eating butter sandwiches, meaning when you bite in, the layer of butter should be equal to the thickness of the bread. That's when you're really eating bread and butter.
Like you can bite it's like a thicker.
You can bite the butter.
You can bite it.
Now, I know there's things that happen when you do that. They're called love handles. So how do I still try to eat like that, knowing what I know about food and science, without having the implications? So we take butter and whip it to about 3 times its volume. If I whip it anymore, it's going to separate. Water is going to come out. And then the butter is tempered to, when I say absolutely body temperature, that's what it is. So we tear the soft bread, and when I say you scoop that butter, you put it on like an ice cream scoop. And you can eat it knowing that there's a third of what you think you've put on there. So mentally, you're registering all this happiness and warm hugs, but there's really nothing. And the same goes for one of our dishes called the uni Alfredo. I always say Alfredo is one of those dishes you want to eat. It's a guilty pleasure, but you feel sluggish.
Oh, I want it. I crave it. And then like 2 bites in, I'm like, I'm done.
If you don't like cream sauces and puppies, you have a special place in hell. I tell people this all the time. You gotta love it. I mean, there's nothing to not like about a cream sauce. We've done it in such a way, I'm taking something from the sea, umami, which is sea urchin, allowing people to introduce themselves to it in a vessel that they're very familiar with, Alfredo. Now you get to go home and say, I had sea urchin, but because you actually ate Alfredo sauce. But scientifically, Parmesan is umami of the earth. Sea urchin is umami from the sea. So I'm doing all the math on the back end, but I'm letting you think you ate something really cool by just making it in Alfredo. I hollow out the noodle, giving you a bucatini, which is hollow. So all of this is going on in the background while you're just eating a bowl of pasta. And you're mixing the sauce and it evaporates because there's only air. While I'm introducing flying fish eggs, which is actually raw and people throw away as dehydrated caviar, and you're eating protein. So there's science, there's health, there's fun, there's history. All of this in a bowl of pasta.
That's exceptional.
It's fun. Yeah. And that's my job, is to take the fuss away and let you guys enjoy what you eat. Because if I'm intimidating you, now it's not relatable. And then the human story is missed. Then you're not connecting with me because it's too pretty to eat or too complicated to understand or even attempt to make at home. So end of the day, my job is to connect with you. So to connect with you, I have to be relatable.
Was there ever not a celebrity or whomever, someone who's well known that you were like in awe of?
Yeah. I don't know how far this story is true or not, but I was very young, and The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and I had watched plenty of wrestling through to my early childhood, obsessively, as most kids were at that point. He was supposed to do the movie. Remember the chef who had a food truck and whatever? I forget what it was. There was a movie recently. I think it was John Favreau, whatever his name was. They won an award for the movie. It was called Chef.
Okay. The movie's called. I know what you're talking about. Then
that movie was supposed to have been played by The Rock 10 years ago, or something to that nature was the story. And The Rock started touring our kitchen, one of my kitchens when I was younger. And I've never had a man crush on anybody like I've had on this guy, right? I mean, he looks like a double door refrigerator. Like, this guy is freaking huge. And the sweetest guy you'll ever meet. And when I tell you I was starstruck, I mean, I wore him on my t-shirt forever. And I've met celebrities beyond measure. I've hosted them at the mansions and Britney's and Billboard Awards and country music. Mike Tyson has had plenty of chats, and Stallone, you name it. We've had the opportunity to spend time and hang out more than just talk. But Rock is one of them, I think, who was extremely larger than life in more than one way. But outside that, I've never really experienced being starstruck. That was the one thing I can remember. And maybe it's also because I was very young or much younger. But outside that, somehow I've never, I'm not one of those people to be starstruck. It's not good or bad. It really...
Is there anyone that you expected to be, maybe you had a bit of like a they're probably mean or this, but they surprised you and they were really, really nice? Like you were like, wow, that person is really genuinely a nice person.
I've met more nice people than not. Yeah,
okay.
100%. And now that I think of it, and I'm a little more sorted in my head, I also realize when people are mean, it's probably not just one interaction with you, right? It's a culmination of, they've probably had 50 people who've taken away personal space from them and annoyed them. And sometimes we all have that moment, and you might be the one person who's experienced that, but the 49 before you, they were overly nice and tolerating, right?
At the end of the day, they're just human.
So you have to take that into consideration, but it also comes with the territory. So if you're larger than life, you're going to have to act larger than life. My mom said one thing: the bigger the tree, the taller the tree, the bigger the storm. Yeah. Meaning, if you really want to be someone of substantial stature, you will weather the storm first. If you want to be down here in a shrub, and people will walk by you and won't notice you. So you're going to have to take what it comes with, basically. So
there's also another saying that you just remember. My mom tells me this. She's, the bigger the tree, the more shade, like, you protect people and help people because you can, and that's your job. It's not that you get to the top and you forget about people. No, it's almost like the longer the table, you don't build like a higher wall, you build a longer table.
Bigger table,
right?
Yeah.
Not like more walls around you, because you are supposed to be inclusive. It's your job now. That's why you're given all of this.
100%. Monday was a couple days ago.
Okay.
Monday morning, Monday afternoon at 4:35, one of my neighbors, young attorney, she calls me. She's like, P, she walks the dogs with me in the morning with her dogs and whatnot. So we're a little bit of a group. She goes, P, Chef, my friends just came in last minute and we don't have anywhere to go. And I said, right, come on over to the restaurant and I'll write you guys a menu. You can come in. And I'm about to go online because I typically won't do day to day. I'm not really doing reservations and whatnot. We have a restaurant manager who kind of checks every reservation. Mm-hmm. I go online and I see this name, Sir Tony Blair. So I'm going, that's funny. Someone writes Sir in front of their name. Mm-hmm. Then I tell my restaurant manager to go online. I said, go ahead and look at who this is. We look at the number and it's from England. And I go, that's funny. What are the chances? 5 minutes later, there's another reservation that populates going, security detail. Another one, security detail. A few minutes later, I'm standing outside with the Secret Service, and 30 minutes later, Mr. Tony Blair walks in and he's dining. And I asked him, how did you find out? And he pointed to his chief of staff and he said, we were driving to the Faena and we read an article about you on the Miami New Times, and particularly you. And I said, oh, really? And he goes, I thought you're a pretty fascinating guy. I wanted to come check you out. And he came and he was like, why are you not everywhere? He's like, why are you not in London? Why are you not? And I said, A, I hate Heathrow. B, I hear you guys don't need another brown kid over there. And he started laughing and he had a sense of humor. And I said, when I stop on my way to Turkey to get a hair transplant on Turkish hairlines, I'll be right there. And he was cracking up. And it was so cool because he's so charming. Mm-hmm. And he allowed me to just cook whatever was on the menu. And he was about 6 or 7 courses in. And I went up to him, and this is where I think I push it a little too much sometimes. And I was like, I said, you got to eat the burger. I said, everyone's talking about it. I mean, we're on the Johnny Walker Blue list in the country specifically for the burger. I mean, the Bear Show kind of talked about it, and ours. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I don't want a burger, but I was like, you're going to have to eat it. I'm like, I'm telling the Prime Minister. And he eats the burger. He finishes the burger after 7 courses. And then I give him the foie gras creme brulee. And he goes, thank you so much for doing that. And he said, can I get a picture with you and the burger? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And he was so sweet and charming, and he took pictures with everybody in the restaurant. And he was nice to ask them how their experience was. And he left, and the entire Secret Service ate burgers that day. They sat down. And to me, again, end of the day, I always say, like, it's just food. We're not saving babies. Mm-hmm. We're just cooking food. So as long as we enjoy that, we get to meet people from every walk of life. And that's the beauty of it. And we weren't expecting a Monday morning. And he made his own reservation. And how many times do you find the Prime Minister of England going on Open Table making a reservation?
No, you don't. No. I'm actually surprised he did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he got in the car and I walked him out and he was gone.
Wow.
And everybody else in the restaurant was like,
what just happened?
Was that Tony Blair? And I was like, yeah, that was.
That's amazing.
But it was pretty cool. So yeah, that was a fun little Monday we had. I was just about leaving, and I walk out and they were like, Eagle One's here, and he's circling around the building as long as
Eagle One is here.
And I was like,
What's happening?
let's do this. I mean, it's not that we've had Bill Clinton visit and a few others at other places, but those hotels and the sizes of them can take on, but obviously there's perimeter 3, 2, 1. There's probably people 5 miles, 3 miles out. By the time he gets to us, I mean, of course, I threw a joke. I said, "You think we should mess around with the laser pointer?" And my guy was like, "Dude, this is not the time." He was like, I was like, well, "It will be funny." Like if
I think it'd be funny. I don't know.
But see, this is where that other side of me comes by, and I'm like, as obsessive as I am about my craft, and there's the leadership side of it. I'm like, I think this is the time. If we ever do it, this is the time. And they're like, "Chef, please don't do it."
What has been the most fulfilling part of building your business here in Miami?
People, by far. It's not any award. It's not any accolade. It's me being able to be part of my team's life, my guests. I say this sincerely, and I say this to my team all the time. We are in the people business. It happens to involve food and beverage, not the other way around. We are in the people business.
Do you feel that was a little bit different when you were working at MGM for so many years versus now? Like connecting with people?
Yes, because I never had the opportunity to, because I was, the wheels of the bus. I wasn't necessarily the steering. But that started early in my career, and I can remember this distinct time. I also know when and certain things happened to me. But
what were those times, if you don't mind sharing?
I think this was 2014. There was a gentleman, 75, 76, 75th birthday they were celebrating. And it was 3 generations of his family who came in to dine. And I went out, I was leaving for the night. It was 10:30. Most of the tables had been sat, entrees had gone out. So chef's leaving. And I always walk out through the front door because I'll shake some hands and say hello to a few people. And I remember seeing this guest, and I saw a dish on the table that I did not recognize. And that drove me up the wall. I'm like, "Excuse me? Like, what is that?" I go back to the kitchen, and immediately everybody's like, "Chef's back. Like, what happened?" I go, "Table number, whatever. What is that on the table?" And there's pin drop silence. And someone tells me that they had pureed the special of the day, which was, I can't remember what it was, but they pureed it because he has no teeth. And then I said, "Why would not anybody ask me about this first?" And I mean, this was like, now everybody's shaking right at this point. And my exec Sue, who's very close to me, I mean, will pretty much be the only person who would talk to me because of the brigade system. He came up to me, goes like, "Chef, well, the server was scared to ask you, and we didn't want to ruin their 75th birthday." And I was so furious at that point, I walked out. My entire drive home, by the time I got home, I went from being furious to I was ashamed of myself, going, my team is so scared to talk to me, while the goal was to make that old man happy. And nothing made him happier than being there and sitting with his family. That's the day I realized what I do is important. The why has to be far more important. Who you eat with has become far more important to me than what I eat. The what I put on a table has to be good. At this level, at this caliber, there is no questions that food better be really good. But the why has to be just as strong. So that was the day I realized that I was becoming bigger than my craft. That I was upset that the brigade had been broken. I forgot about the fact that 75-year-old man had 3 generations there, and he had no teeth, and all he asked was, "Can you puree this?" And imagine them going back and go, "Nope, this is going to go out because chef has perfected the craft of al dente and a la onda and stirring in a copper pot in only one direction to have perfect strands of gluten." Like, all of that went out of the window. And then I really stopped and I go, "Okay, hold on. What am I doing this for?" And then I started that's the day, like, the leadership element started coming into place, and I started really figuring out why I want to do this. I think it was there. I hadn't tapped into it.
Do you think after this, you started to transform how you chose to lead?
Consciously, yes. Probably subconsciously, I was always a leader. Leaders are born, and then they can be sharpened up. But conscious effort towards my leadership skills started then.
Because I know our team went to your restaurant here in Miami, and one of the things that I consistently heard is that your team was so passionate about everything and about what they were serving and what they were doing. So clearly, they're not afraid of you now. So it's like you shifted something from years before when this, incident occurred, where you took that, evolved, and brought that to your leadership skill set?
Yeah, actually, our director of food and beverage, who's with us now, about maybe 15 plus years ago, was like an intern. I was one of his first mentors when he was from the Michigan State program. And I was one of the first mentors for MGM Resorts, and he was my mentee. And sometimes he bitches to me, he goes, where's that guy? Like, why did I get that guy? And he's like, you look, what? Like, what's going on over here? You're taking everyone for ice cream? Like, are you serious? Like, it happens. I mean, not that that's a particular example, but I've realized that now my job is to even create an environment where they're not afraid to fail. But I always tell people, like, I don't know is okay. I don't care is not okay. So I'm okay with you not knowing something, but you not caring is not okay. We're going to change that. But I don't know is perfectly fine. It's really perfectly fine. But back in the day, I don't know would not work. If someone said I don't know, then I'm like, you don't belong here. Today, I actually source out candidates that don't really know, and we pride ourselves in building an environment where 5 years later, these guys are considered some of the best in the city, not because they're technically skilled or their tasks are timed and they're executing in a certain manner. It's really that USP is the feel, and I'm glad your team was able to catch on to some of it.
Yeah, the emotion behind it. What is a challenge in the industry today that you are passionate about solving or would like to or have?
It's not just an industry problem. It's something I also encounter and face time and again. Instant gratification. Success is now has to be pretty quick, but that's also based on how economics work now. I mean, you only have small windows to succeed because people's attention span's small, trends are smaller, everything's smaller. So again, the temperament to even withstand failure and success is the window has gotten smaller. So that instant gratification has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger part. And in our industry, especially the kind of approach I have, which is very holistic, I always say, like, my idea of now hospitality is holistic, both internal hospitality and external. It has to start with internal, and then it's going to translate out. But this is process oriented. This isn't task oriented. So my process itself is a labor of love. Although it will sustain the test of time. One of the biggest things everyone tells me is, like, your team has been the same since day one. People's change jobs for 25 cents. And I say, yeah. But that I struggle with. The instant gratification. Even for me, time and again, I need to remind myself that it's okay if someone didn't give us some award. It's okay if my restaurant's not 100% full. I want it to be, and we will get there. But you have to be able to withstand the test of time. And this is what I tell everybody is, like, there's nothing like it. What you become during that is far more rewarding.
That's more important.
Yeah.
I think, you can never connect the dots forward in life. You can always connect them backwards. And I'm sure, as we can all can in this room, is, oh, this is why this had to happen. I learned X, Y, Z from that situation. Or if I was given all these things, like if you were given your restaurant today and the hotel today, 15 years ago, I'm sure you can sit and say, no, Nina, there was things that I didn't know. There was things that I couldn't have done. I probably wasn't even the person who could emotionally and physically handle. Like, I can say that for myself. There are things that I could, as much as I wanted all this to happen 5-10 years ago, I was a different person.
Right.
I wouldn't know how to receive it. I wouldn't know how to handle it. They say, like, you pray for something, but you should pray for the wisdom to be able to keep it and grow it. That was not there. Like, I think self-sabotage, like, there's something to be said about, like, all of your trials and tribulations bring you to a point where, oh, you understand more, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever ask for, and I have conversations with my mom daily. Some people might say too much, but I have them every day. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot that I keep going, Ma, don't nag me about. But then I realize that stays in my head subconsciously at some point, especially when you said the word trials and tribulations. That kind of stuck because I do go back and go, why this and why that? And then there's certain things that are so simple but so profound mm-hmm. that are really, like, to me, milestones. Like, I can remember certain things my mom's told me on certain days mm-hmm. and that have really changed my life. I'll never let her know why and when, because then she's going to want me to listen to her all the time. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But it's there. And to me, these are things that really shape mindsets.
Yeah. It's who you become. It's like the person you become during your journey. Looking back on everything up until this point, what's the biggest, most important lesson that you think you've learned in life?
I mean, there's been a few of those, but I think definitely COVID made sure that I knew nothing was permanent. I think that's really everything I thought of who I am, what I am, everything was all of a sudden taken away from me and from all of us to a large extent. And I think that really allowed me to let go of a lot of baggage because I was nobody all of a sudden. And I always thought I was somebody because I
You
was.
weren't Chef P anymore.
Yeah, and I think that really brought me to the ground. And then I think that was so liberating. I think I had the best time ever in COVID. And I secretly, without the other things that came with it, I secretly hope there's another one of those episodes where we're all forced to take a break from our day-to-day. Specifically to say that I was absolutely liberated. I was free of every single thing. I was working, not in the capacity of what I'm typically used to. I love work. I enjoy it. I realized I just like working. It doesn't matter what any job. I was painting, I was scrubbing walls, flushing toilets, so learning stuff. But I was living life in a way that was without the baggage of being something or being a leader or anything. But then I realized, I started realizing that even when I was doing that, okay, I was like, that's just who I am. Then I really peeled all the layers back, and I think I've really found who I am as a person, and my purpose has become that much more defined. And today when someone says, what do you want to do? I say, my purpose is just to be part of people's story in whatever capacity that might be, whether it's my hostess trying to find her apartment, whether I have or don't have time for it, I'll make time because I want to be part of that story. I want to make sure that I'm able to help in some way, whether it's me writing a training plan, whether it's me helping my assistant executive chef learn how to be an executive, like whatever that might be, I really just enjoy it. I chased numbers, I chased money, I chased awards, I chased recognition. And not that I don't crave it. I mean, I'm human and I'd love to see myself on a face of some magazine, but yeah. I also know, I'm aware that it doesn't mean anything. Right. That doesn't take away the fact that I don't mind or I like it. But I'm definitely, those misconceptions are gone. Like, I understand the idea of borrowed credibility. I know if tomorrow I'm driving a very sought after car, I'm not cooler because of the car. I do understand that people are turning because the car is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So tomorrow if that car is picked up and driven by someone else, they're going to get pretty much the same attention. So that misconception of borrowed credibility, I don't think I let that stick to me. It may sometimes, and it does, but I think I'm very mindful of that now.
People say that a lot about the Grammys too. I've like watched interviews where they're like, yeah, in the beginning of my career, it meant everything to me. And then I learned the schematics and business and what does it really mean? Like, who's measuring what? And at the end of the day, that award doesn't take away or give to someone's art.
I think that's until the day you start respecting yourself as a professional. I think now that I understand what caliber of a professional I am or what I think I'm doing and how far I am along that journey, when I've come to terms with that, now I'm okay with someone else rating me or not rating me. I'm like, good, you give me a 4, good, congratulations. And I said that a few times and I say it all the time. My journey of wanting to impress people has taken a turn into wanting to make people happy. And earlier on, I thought they were one and the same. And I've realized that there's a subtle difference. Impressing you and making you happy are very different. Before, I needed you to know how good I was. Now, if you think I'm good, great. If you don't, I'm okay. I'm not above judgment. I'm just okay with it.
This kind of goes into my next question is how you approach mentorship in your own kitchen today. And I think you kind of just answered that, right, where you choose a very hands-on, personal approach.
It's switched gears. I was a very Delta Force approach, right? I come from a formal pedigree of, first of all, formal education, and then also skill set wise, I come from these world-renowned destinations and establishments. So I always believed everyone needed to look the same, act the same, nails were trimmed, your jacket needed to be pressed, and I still believe in a lot of that. However, the other side of it is what we just spoke about. I truly, truly believe in opportunity. We have people who have other challenges who wouldn't typically be the face of a restaurant. We have all sorts of team members from every walk of life. And it's so funny. I find so much joy in simply changing or helping be part of that journey. I'm not changing anything. In fact, I always say, like, I've walked away learning and changing so much about myself through that process. So to me, it's actually selfish. My mom said to me once, a long time ago, and I ridiculed her for this. She said, giving is the most selfish act because it actually truly makes you feel better about yourself instantly.
I kid you not, my mom has said that to me my entire life. And she said there's something, not in a bad way, not in a negative way.
I agree.
And I never got it until I got, until I started to do things and I was getting involved in our community. I was like, Mom, you're right. I do this because this makes me feel good. But there's something to be said about that though. Like, when you're going around helping people.
It's hard to process.
It is. It's kind of like a mind bending thing. And with time, with experience, you get it. But for those people who never really step outside of themselves and want to help other people, I don't think that there's anything on this planet that can give you that much happiness or fulfillment than when you get from helping somebody. And I always say to people who maybe have anxiety or depression or just like down and out about something in life, go do something for someone else. Step outside of yourself. There's going to be nothing more fulfilling than that.
Absolutely.
I really just, I think that's like a very missing key thing in our society today, where we're so busy trying to let me have a savings account, let me get here, let me set up for retirement, let me climb the social ladder or the career ladder, that you forget to help along the way.
I tell people to try to see the difference or find the distinction in dopamine and serotonin. They're very different.
Yeah.
Chase serotonin. Dopamine is short-lived.
Yep. Mm-hmm. This scrolling.
That's good. I mean, it's great, but I always say it's not going to give you the happiness.
No, it's not. It's not that deep inner happiness.
Yeah, and not to be very profound, but yeah, it's things like that that have really changed my leadership style. I mean, I'm still very regimented, and if I would like to meet at 10, that means that's actually means 9:55, and it's only 10 o'clock twice a day. But end of the day, that side is there. But if someone shows up late, back in the day, they would not get a second chance, let alone I would not probably even acknowledge their presence anymore. Because to me, sure, you were given the rules and I'm sure the world came to an end, but it's okay. It's gone. Today, it's not like that anymore.
There's something to be said about as you progress in your career and as you evolve as a person, you grow to have this, you learn to expand and hold more capacity for people, hold more space for people. I know what you like, when you're like this, very type A personalities, very driven leader qualities. But then as you realize, you're like, okay, these are people. And then I think somewhere, even though you hold yourself to a very high standard and that's why you hold other people to a high standard, you also catch yourself on where you may have been that way with yourself.
Unfortunately, that hasn't changed.
No, but it's there.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? You are now aware, like when you told me earlier about the shower situation, like it's there, that you're looking at the clock, 6.5 minutes.
If I have to go somewhere and there's really no timeline, and let's just say I told myself at 2 o'clock I'm going to go somewhere, and if I'm there at 2:01, I'm criticizing myself in my head. Like, I'm like, you're a loser. Like, you can't make it on time anywhere. Like, you're useless. That's just how it is. I mean,
mine just won't happen. I leave it like an hour before sometimes.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Because I just can't be late. Like, it's like, no.
Yeah. So that side of me is definitely there, but I've managed to keep it to myself. Yeah. And I also say, and everyone says it's never too late to change. I say it's too late to change. Like, I mean, this is who I am and that's how it's going to go down. And I'm okay with that. Like I always say, awareness is the key for me. And I'm aware that that's who I am. So I will deal with what comes with it, the good and the bad. I have to accept that. As of now, I am who I am and I would never change how I worked until now. And the funny part is this dog that can't speak to me has changed it all for me without asking. I mean, I will drive 3 hours across the city if I can go back and spend 10 minutes feeding the dog.
Oh, what kind of dog is it?
A Cavapoo. He's 8 months old.
Cool. What advice would you give to an aspiring chef?
Find your why as early as possible. And it's hard to find your why because there's a lot of things you have to get out of the way in order to establish groundwork and even get an opportunity to fight it out until you get to where you're visible, because there's many, many years you're going to have to slog it out till you even have eyes on you. But during that, the quicker you can find your why, the better, because that will really help you save some years steering in the right direction. You'll align yourself with the right people. You'll align yourself, not right or wrong, but with the people who are right for you. So that really helps. The quicker you know, the better.
I think that also helps, like it aligns your actions with your values. Like what do you value the most and what do you desire in life? And then you align accordingly, right? A lot of us sometimes just go through life, whatever's coming our way, or you kind of get stuck in the rut.
It's also liberating in one way. Or people who have all these things they want to accomplish and achieve. I always say, like, that's one way of living, and then the other way is I have people who I've never heard the word goal out of their mouth, and they're the most blissful people on the planet.
But did they find their why? That maybe they have found their why.
Maybe.
And that's,
quite possible.
What do you do for yourself? Like, I know you're Chef P and you love working. You mentioned that. This is clearly your passion. You live and breathe it. But what is something that you do for yourself that brings you joy, that kind of helps you? Could be something leisure, it could be anything.
Actually find true joy in cooking. That is my therapy. If you left me alone, there was nothing more I would like to do than just cook. And I don't get to do that anymore.
What?
As much. I mean, I don't. Really? I rarely put on a chef coat. And if it is, then the cameras are rolling, or I'm launching a new menu, or, we're on NBC in the morning or something like that. But of course, I cook at home quite religiously. I truly disconnect. And it's not that I cook fancy stuff all the time or anything complicated. I just enjoy cooking. I really do. My executive assistant chef, sometimes I'll be having a really busy day and I'll be jammed up in office work and calls and other consults and whatnot. And he will sometimes schedule time on my calendar to make me prep. And I'm like, Cullen, I don't have time for this. And he'd be like, no, you need this. And it's funny, as much as I'll bitch, 2 hours later after peeling asparagus or confit duck or doing something and getting into a technique, it'll be 4 hours, and I would have pushed a few things off to the side. But I come back and I'm so energized because I really...
That's your moment when your brain shuts off from everything else, business related, hotel, like everything. And now
there was nothing better than being a line cook. I can tell you that. When all you have to worry about is your 12 saute pans and talking to your guy next to you. And by the time you turn around, your dining room's full and you finished, you feel like you came out of war. It's incredible. That glory, that's why I say we chase glory. Yeah. And they act like we're warriors, right? The chefs are like, we think we're badasses. You ever see line cooks come out of a restaurant? It's a really beautiful thing to watch. You think that these guys think they've accomplished something ridiculous.
It's like they came out of war or something. Yeah, I've seen it. If someone told you that you could never be a chef again, what would you be doing?
I've never even thought about that. There was no plan B. I've actually never thought about that.
Well, what if someone just told you today, like, you can't be Chef P, you're not a chef anymore, you don't own a hotel anymore, what would you do?
That's a very good question. I can't imagine life any other way. I've always thought I'll be a chef, and there was no plan B, and I still think I probably have to rethink about, this is it. This is what I was meant to do. And I think of myself less, again, as a chef. I mean, yes, I am Chef P, and that's my identity, but now I don't think my job involves cooking. I just say it's people. Like, I don't know what else. I don't know. I really don't know.
What was the happiest, most memorable moment or time of your life that even today, when you think about it, you're smiling or you have like happy tears?
I rarely cry, which is not a good thing.
Out of happiness.
Yeah, that too.
Still don't.
No, but I think some of my fondest memories are back to my time with my younger days, cousins, and I had an absolute blast. We lived around each other. We spent every waking moment with each other, and I'm very close with them. So most of my fond memories are back to my early school and college days with my cousins and whatnot.
Do you ever wish to open a restaurant in India?
I've never thought about it. Professionally, I don't think I relate to the Indian market because majority of all my professional career has been in the States. Am I opposed to it? Absolutely not. Have I even thought about it? I have not. And maybe someday the opportunity will be there and I might think about it, but I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, it's not on the plan.
What is your favorite food?
I don't have a favorite food. I am an obsessive eater. I just love I want to say art of eating. I ate a guava yesterday that I drove an hour and a half from South Beach to Homestead to pick up fruit because there's fruit that you can buy there that you will never see in a supermarket here. Like the FDA doesn't approve for them to be grown and sold in the US, but there's fruit out there that a lot of varietals you probably have never seen in your life. And I sat in my kitchen, I came back and I bit into that guava and I was looking at it like, like I was making love to the guava. I was like,
Wow.
I posted a picture about it. I was like, wow. Like,
what is this? What is this place in Homestead? It's like
it's called the Redlands Farmers Market. It's literally, there's donkey rides and like, it's a real farmer's market. It's not what you see in the Gables and Lincoln Road on the beach. That's not what it is. They're not taking a tomato and putting it in a basket and selling it to you for $8. That's not what it is.
Okay, I have to check it out. Chef P, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
This is an incredible story that you have.
Yeah, you're going to have to come and check us out
100%.
on the beach.
Yes, I'm going to have to come in with my husband for sure. Before you leave, where can our audience connect with you?
I have my Instagram page. It's just at Chef Pawan Pinisetti.
And the name of your restaurant? I'm sure they have
the restaurant's also Ceravin on Miami Beach. It's called Ceravin by Pawan Pinisetti. You can see that. Greystone Hotel has its own website, but primarily, I think I'm a pretty funny guy, so I do have some humor that I post on my feed. Some of it probably I shouldn't, but I like having fun, and a lot of that shows in my food. As serious as I am, and as much as I chase things like elegance and dignity, and I try to talk about my food, I think I'm a really funny guy. So
I think you're hilarious.
A lot of my food has things like that, and this is exactly why I say it's so true to my personality. Is there's things like pork is my favorite vegetable. Yeah. That's because I say it. There's a big suckling pig that comes out to your table, and some people think it's absolutely crazy that I bring the pig out to the table, but I do. So I think my menu is a true reflection of me. So if you guys want to come hang out and cook with me, I would love that. So
I would love to.
Yeah. Please.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.